Welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. Today we have a guest for you that's up in Sydney. He is a first degree black belt under Bill Grapsis and by way of Pedro Sauer. He is the head coach and owner of Northern Beaches Jiu Jitsu, and he is Jack Cox. Thanks for joining us, Jack.
Thanks for the invite. It's been nice to meet you guys.
Likewise.
Great to have you on, mate. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We obviously haven't met, but mate, in the video you look like a unit. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You supplement some jiu-jitsu with some lifting and that sort of thing.
Yeah, yes, a little bit. I started originally a basketball player as a kid, and then that sort of started to peter out a little bit. And I was also a bit shorter as a basketball player, so I thought I'd go to the gym and try and be as strong as I can, so I can just hold people around. And then the basketball career came to an end because I was, like I said, I was too short to get signed by any of the major NBL teams. I went off to work on the waterfront for a while, and while I was there, got interested in doing some martial arts. Started with a bit of karate, and then found that myself and one of my mates just end up rolling on the ground every time we'd spar, and we'd buy like Black Belt magazine or one of those, because I'm trying to think. I was thinking about this today. I'm not very good with dates. My timeline's based more on my tattoos. I didn't have any tattoos at the time, so it was before I was 30, and I'm 48 now. But so working back, like this is early 2000s, there wasn't a lot. I don't think there was any jiu-jitsu around at that time on the beaches, because I grew up in the eastern suburbs around Maroubra and Coogee. Bruno wasn't around at that stage. We got a lot of our information from books. Panther videos, I think, was before the VHS Panther tapes back in the day, and then found jiu-jitsu through Elvis and Anthony, which is where John started. I think a lot of guys in Sydney originally started with them, trained with them for about 6 months, and then just the commute, and I was doing shift work at the time, just got too hard. So pulled out to that, and then ended up getting into some pro wrestling. We did a little bit of pro wrestling, and my coach at the time was an old school Greek pro wrestler, and believed you had to know how to do amateur wrestling before you could do pro wrestling. So he taught us how to actually wrestle and take down and grapple on the ground without the submission. So that kind of did that. I did that for about 3 years, did a little bit of some pro shows, had a bit of fun with that, and then got back into the jiu-jitsu with Gracie, what at the time was Gracie Sydney, now Gracie Oceana, under Bruno Pano, but predominantly at Carrying Bar at the time with Alex Prates and Bernardo Trecker. And that was around 2009, 2008-ish. Was with the Gracies for up until I opened up my own academy in 2019. So I got my blue belt from Alex, purple belt from Mauricio Cavaccini, brown belt from Mauricio as well, up at Gracie Nonaval, and that's when I moved to the Northern Beaches in 2014. I was going to buy that academy, and that didn't work out, so I just opened up my own. And then I've been here for 6 years, met Phil and John through Steve Maxwell, and John and I became mates after that, and that's when I opened up my own academy. That's when I affiliated with Pedro Sauer.
Now, you've I think you skipped over it a little bit, but I want to delve a little bit more into your pro wrestling. I think we've had another guest or two on that have also done this. It's interesting. Firstly, like, how did you make that transition? And tell us a bit more of what happened. You said you did it for about 3 years. That's a while.
It was one of those things when, you know, when you're a kid, people go, what do you want to be? And everyone goes, oh, I want to be a firefighter. I want to be a policeman or an astronaut or whatever. I want to be a pro wrestler. And I was growing up obsessed with like Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man and that sort of like 1980s rock and roll wrestling when it was at its peak and becoming a bit more mainstream. And then I was training at a gym at East Gardens or Pagewood, which is near for anyone knows, it's in between the airport and Maroubra. And there was a guy named Jack Claiborne who was a French guy who came out here as a pro wrestler, and he grew up with Andre the Giant, used to train with him and wrestle with him and travel with Andre. And he said, oh, you look like you should do some pro wrestling. I said, I'd love to do some pro wrestling. Introduced me to a couple of guys in the old school guys in that era, and went out, met them, and they, you know, like I suppose it's funny. I remember talking to him on the phone, and the guy goes, how big are you? And I said, oh, I'm about 6'1". He goes, oh, okay, how much do you weigh? I said, oh, about 120 kilos. And he goes, oh, okay, sure. And like just sort of blew me off. He goes, come out for a trial. We'll see how you go. Sends me the address, and it was at Cabramatta, PCYC. and they had 2 squash courts opposite one another. One was a flat wrestling mat, and the other was a ring inside the squash courts. And I remember walking in, and the guy goes, "You weren't lying." I went, "About what?" And he goes, "Oh, your size." I went, "Well, why would I lie about my size?" And he goes, "Everybody else says they're like this tall, and they come in and they're 5'4", and I went, "Okay."
Yeah.
So they say they're 90 kilos, and they come in and they're 75. I don't have to lie. So, and then basically they sent me through the wrestling crash course, learned how to break fall, jump off the ropes, do backflips, all that sort of stuff, which I kind of knew anyway from doing gymnastics as a kid and playing basketball. Had plenty of could dunk a basketball quite easily, so that side wasn't too hard. It was more just getting to work with other guys and just sort of trust one another and sort of, play the game and do the dance. It was a ton of fun. I kind of miss it because the backstage camaraderie is really cool because it's so funny because you're out there, like, in theory, beating the crap out of one another, but, it's all a show. And I remember some funny stories, like just some really funny stories, like the boys would come and watch me wrestle and had no kids at the time. So mum and dad would come out and watch. And they come to everything, which is amazing. And mum and I'm getting beat up in the corner and they're smashing my leg against the steel posts and all the stuff that they do. And I could hear mum comes over to the fence and I could hear her go, friendship the match as the typical mum would. Like, I had her on a quite a time when thumbs up or, it's like we're in a basketball game. It's only an ankle, I'll be fine. Like I was sort of I'm trying to wink and give it, but the light.
You got to sell it.
That was always funny. Yeah, the backstage camaraderie there is like second to none because it's such a weird environment because you're there playing a role and you're a bad guy, you're a good guy. It's kind of irrelevant. But
Did you have a name? Did you have your character have a name?
no, well, everyone else had like fake names and and they went, "No, we're just going to keep it really simple for you." And okay, well, we're going to get rid of the C. And we're just going to call you Jack. It was just Jack. Okay, it was pretty easy to sign autographs at the end of the match. You've got to remember that, so you don't really have to answer to a different name when people call out to you. So that was quite
yeah.
But it was good. It was good fun. Good bunch of guys, really nice guys. I took one of my son to a show a couple of years ago, and he's only really little. And I bought his tickets in the front row, and I didn't tell the boys that I was coming to see them. And we're driving there, and my son goes, "Dad, what's going to happen if your nemesis is there?" I'm going, I didn't even know he knew what the word nemesis meant. He's about fine. I go, "Well, we're going to have to fight. So you're going to back me up?" And he goes, "No, I'm not." Oh, okay. So it was quite funny. We're there, and the guy he and I used to be the two bigger guys head to head. He sees me in the front row and gives me a wink. And my son Xander goes, "Dad, he just winked at you. Does that mean you're going to fight?" I went, "Probably. The rivalry never dies." He goes, so it was all good. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Mate, that's awesome. Growing up through the 80s, I know exactly the sort of time that you were talking about too. I actually had two uncles who wrestled in New Zealand, one Uncle Sam,
Yep.
and then I had another Uncle Tiger, and Tiger was named Tiger. I don't even know his actual name. He had a tattoo. He was a big, big man, but he had a tattoo of a tiger on his back. So that was why he was Uncle Tiger. So I don't know I don't know his name. But I actually went and saw Andre the Giant wrestle in New Zealand, and I don't know what year, but it would have been in the early 80s.
Yep.
I had his autograph and that sort of thing, and I remember where they were wrestling, I was sitting right by the tunnel that they would then walk back through to the changing room. And I was like, I'll say 15 seats up. And then he's walked through the tunnel and I was reaching down. I was just like patting him I want to pat him on the shoulder, but I couldn't, but I could reach his head. So I was patting him on the head. He was literally a giant. Like, he was massive.
Yeah. I remember seeing him, I think it was like either 1983, 1984, probably maybe even the same tour. When they did the City Entertainment Centre, and there was him and Ricky Steamboat and the Killer Bees and like all those. And the same thing, when he came out, we all ran down the front and they sort of had the makeshift like council barricades. Like, you could have just gone underneath, but everyone was like, because it was real back then. And everyone was still petrified.
Yeah.
Hand out and just going, somebody touches it.
It was a crazy time. Jack, were you a standout? So you did like gymnastics and stuff as a kid.
Yeah.
Were you a standout athlete when you were a kid as well?
Not so much a standout, but I could hold my own. And I was always a little bit bigger than most in the top. Like, wasn't the tallest, wasn't the was in competitive with everything, but wasn't great at anything. And then hindsight being 2020, I probably should have played rugby league or rugby union. Just I've got a better build for that, but just wanted to pursue the basketball route, and got obsessed with basketball from the time I was 14 up to 24, and played with some high-level guys who went to college in the States, played NBL over here, won some championships with the Sydney Kings in that era in the early 2000s. I just didn't have the right body type to be at that level for the position that.
And so with your jiu-jitsu, Jackie, when you were sort of telling your story about it, you've had quite a number of different coaches and you've moved around a little bit. Have you found like a difference in styles between coaches and between academies?
Yeah, it's quite, it's funny you say that. I was only, since we connected and sort of talked, it makes you sort of reminisce about the, like where you came from. And literally, so starting with Elvis and Anthony, it was right when Elvis was still fighting. And Anthony was, they were both brown belts at the time. Anthony hadn't got his black yet. Anthony Lang was still, I think he was a 4-stripe brown. I met Anthony my first day. And I remember the first thing, we learned what they call now a K-guard knee bar. And it was basically like Elvis 12, when someone stands up in your guard, you drop underneath, bring your knee in and kick it over. And then I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then I remember I got heel hooked by a purple belt in my second or third roll. I'm like, oof, cool. So the leg lock thing wasn't foreign to me. I didn't know how to do them, obviously. Then switching over with the Gracies and going to Alex. So Alex is Rob Whittaker's coach now. He was a brown belt at the time. Like leg locks we just didn't do them. And I remember I used to play with some foot stuff because of wrestling, like you knew how to toe hold and whatnot. And they used to frown upon it. And then we had Alex trained with Mario Sperry back in the day. So Mario Sperry came over to the seminar, and it was all footlocks. And that kind of sort of segued into that. There's no heel hooks. This was 2009, 2010-ish. Very different styles in that regard. And that we were like going from Elvis and Anthony, very gi focused, a little bit of MMA, a little bit of self-defense. Going to Alex, it was more, we're getting you ready, everyone ready for MMA, because they were building that MMA team, and Alex was still fighting, and you had Manny Rodriguez, I think it was Richie Vass, who were on the Smashers series with the UFC. So there was a lot of those sort of early CFC guys with the promotion, like Hector Lombard used to come down and train. We used to have Leonard come in and teach us wrestling. So it was more very eclectic, which was awesome. And then the reason I swapped gyms is just because I moved. So I was living near the airport in Sydney at the time. If you've ever been there, I moved down near Cronulla, so about half an hour away from the CBD, trained with Alex. Then I moved back towards the airport and trained with Bruno and those guys at headquarters for a while, just because it was next door and it was still part of the same association. And then I moved up to the Northern Beaches, and then just naturally went up here and came with Mauricio up there. And Mauricio was very different again, where he's more competition style, didn't really push the competition side of things, but that sort of more Kiss of the Dragon type bottom half guard, deep half guard style of game, knee shield, slightly contrasting again. So more my speed now, more the old man, slow down, lock onto something, don't let you move, cook you a little bit and then get on top. And then switching over to Pedro Sauer, it's similar, a bit different again, with more self-defense focused and the survive, escape, get on top, cook them a little bit, then take what's available rather than sort of forcing your style on them. So it's been a very nice evolution and sort of moving, particularly from the MMA focused, impose your will on people, to now take what's available. I watch a lot of Roy Dean stuff as well. And I love his influence, where I watched a roll with him. He rolled with a blue belt, purple belt, and a brown belt for like 20 minutes. And no matter where it went, he had something. Oh, you want to go to here? No problem. You want to put them on my back? That's okay. I've got something for you here. No matter where you go, I'm going to make it hard for you. And that's kind of how I want my students to be. I don't want to make clones of me. I want to give them really sound fundamentals, so then they can then push their own agenda, be it competition or self-defense or lifestyle, or just do it for the sake of the art, whatever they appreciate. If the fundamentals are sound, they can go everywhere. And I've got a good little crew of guys who are all extremely different because of different likes, tastes, body types, and it's all. I think their fundamentals are really sound, which allows them to then move into whatever avenue they want, and that's what I really found I liked about the Pedro Sauer style, and switching over to that after sort of doing all the other harder ones and sort of beating your body up and having a collection of moves rather than understanding of what makes it work. And also potentially thinking back on it now, catching the Elvises and Anthony's at that brown belt stage, like now being a black belt for myself, your understanding is completely different to what it was as a white, blue, purple, brown. Then you kind of get this understand. Now I know why it works and how it works, not just when to use it, or I'm in guard. Someone opens my guard, I shoot scissor sweep. Like you understand, okay, you do this because they're giving you this. So that's also, I think that's another thing. And then meeting Phil and Pedro Sauer, like it's just another, it's a different level of understanding. Not level, I should say level, it's not right. More tangent. Like I kind of look at it like a bike tire, and get all the spokes. We're all here, and then we can go any direction we want and go down the competition route, the self-defense, whatever. It doesn't really matter. You can explore it for as long as you want. They're all great. It's just whether it resonates with you at the time, rather than sort of it has to be this way, because it's all great in my
Yeah.
It sounds like a very, very broad base for your training, right? So going through all of those different, with all of your different coaches that you've had, like you've really got a broad spectrum of all of the different facets of jiu-jitsu, really. Hey, did you compete in MMA? Was that something that you ever did, Jack?
As a coach, I understand this bit now when I tell you this story. At the time, I was filthy on Alex. He'd organised, this was a funny story, pro wrestling, Kai back into the first. We were training a lot of guys to sort of get ready for the Smashers series or the local CFC promotion. And Alex said to me, do you want to have a fight? I'm like, sure, we're training for it, may as well. My striking was terrible at the time. Still is, actually. And I thought if I can get into, I knew my takedowns, because we'd wrestled, and I knew if they throw a jab, I'm gonna shoot under the jab. I'm gonna put them on their arms. And no one could stop my double leg at that time. And I was super confident with that. Alex lines up this fight for me, and he goes, we're in this, blah, 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 blah. So we start prepping, and then the guy, Alex Rizzi goes, man, the guy doesn't want to fight you. Why? And he goes, he's seen you on YouTube. I'm not on YouTube. And he goes, one of your pro wrestling matches is on YouTube. I went, okay. And he goes, he watched you throw someone or do I go, does he know it's fake? But it's not real. The guy's helping me lift. I'm not pressing him over my head. I can't remember what the move was. He goes, hey, watch you catch a guy in midair and throw him. I went, he goes, doesn't want to fight. Right? So that was one opportunity missed. And then he rings me about 2 weeks later. He goes, we've got another one fight for you. At the time, like I said, I didn't understand it. As a coach, I get it now. He rings me about a week later. He goes, man, I've cancelled the fight. I go, why? He goes, man, if you get this guy to the ground, you're going to kill him. He said, but you got to get him to the ground. He goes, I've watched his kickboxing fights. He goes, man, your hands and your defense are terrible. This guy could potentially kick your head off your shoulders. And he goes, I'm not going to put you at that risk. He goes, if you had 5 more months or a few more months of striking experience, I'd put you in. And I went, as a coach now, I get it. At that time, I'm going, oh, man, so I never had that opportunity. So I did a few comps as a white belt. Did the original Abu Dhabi Pro out here as a blue belt.
Oh wow!
When that first started to start up with actually Mario Sperry ran all that back then, and then it's one of the few dates I actually remember. It was the 6th of November 2011. It was in Elvis and Anthony's grappling industries comp or whatever it was called back then, and went in for a double leg after the comps start. Oh, you're on in 2 minutes. Sorry, wrong. Go and have a rest. Oh, you're back on. Warmed up, cool down. Warmed up, cool down. I'm not warming up anymore. My knees weren't that great anyway from basketball. So then we're having this match. I went, screw this. Shot in for a double leg and my knee just exploded. I tore the tendon below the kneecap. My kneecap shot up into my thigh. So I completely detached, leg locked at 90 degrees. Just remember laying on the floor, and then I went, I think I'm done competing. That was kind of the end of that. And it was a big learning experience for me. Put a lot of perspective back in the life of what's actually important, who's important, what jiu-jitsu was, and what it meant to be. So I had about 18 months off of work with that. I had to have a couple of surgeries. Thank God for income protection insurance. And then slowly worked my way back into training with Owen Geeky, who owns Gracie Sutherland, Gracie Shire. He did a lot of
Yeah, we've had him on the podcast.
Yeah, great guy. Yeah, he did a lot of one-on-one with me just to sort of help me build my confidence back and get me moving and sort of help me sort of develop a more of a bottom game as well. So I owe a lot of credit to Owen, and like another great influencing coach and a great guy I still talk to regularly. And that sort of changed things up. And then it kind of the risk of competition after that just wasn't worth having, because I've got 2 kids now and mortgage and all that other good stuff that we have. I think I did a competition charity match for Johnny. He was raising some money for a fundraiser, and that's about it. Other than that, I'm not really interested in competing too much.
And I hear you've got a kick-ass kids program. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so most of my students are kids. Probably about 80% of our membership are kids. I've got good volume, got some really decent level kids, but a lot of lifestyle kids. Where we are, like for example, my son and daughter do jiu-jitsu with me once a week. They box with one of my coaches once a week. Swimming, football, netball, soccer, something else, cricket. So everybody around where I live does that. So I've got a lot of kids who it's an activity. It's not their one and only. So I've got a good kid program with a lot of volume. Got some great coaches coming through who are kids as well, who are training me full time. But we also got to give them a lot in that once a week that we generally have them. So a lot of the discipline's really good. Our system's really good. We've got a solid warm up that they do all the time, which helps them with their movements, and it actually exposed one of the, because the Wednesday crew got exposed this week, so they weren't doing their warm. They've been slacking off on their warm up, and they all couldn't get out off the bottom. So and that's what I think the value in our kids program is. It's just really sticking to good fundamentals, focusing on getting unhooks on the bottom, protecting your head, using that sort of self-defense philosophy to better your jiu-jitsu and make it sort of timeless. And that's what I think our kids program does. That does really, really well. We get a lot of referrals. So most of they're not really new customers. They're sort of friends of friends that come along. So have a lot of fun as well. The kids are always laughing. I do really bad dad jokes, which the parents laugh at. The kids don't get. So I've been at home.
In regards to the kids and that sort of thing, and then going over into the adults, do you sort of teach the same way? Like, is it a skill acquisition sort of thing? Is it this kind of new style that people are talking about? Like, what sort of programs do you teach, kids and then adults?
I generally follow, mixing it up a little bit. I used to follow the Pedro Sauer curriculum, particularly when I first opened up. The last thing I wanted to do was figure out what I had to teach, because I'm just going, I don't even, just had someone turn up and show you something. And but then once it got busy, okay, sweet. The way the system was, go, and it would populate the lesson. And then with the kids, I kind of went the route of the Gracie games, because it was just me with 2 or 3 kids. So I could teach them to sit still while the others did tackle the giant, the crazy horse, the Spider-Man, all that sort of stuff. Then I struggled a little bit with getting them to transition to doing it with one another, because they were so used to doing it with me, but then they couldn't correlate, hang on, I can do this with my friend. So then I went more down the route of what people call ecological learning, or those things with the kids. And we did that today, for example. I got them to sort of sit up in their diamond shape, or like their forward scoot, backward scoot position, and just defend their belly, whereas the others are trying to pass the guard and get into a crossbody or a mount. And I do that a lot with the little kids, just more conceptual. Okay, if you can get in between somebody's elbows and knees, you're in a dominant position. If you can get a body lock on them, you're in control. If they can, we do like a hug master, where they've got to get double underhooks, and T-Rex arms or robot arms, and I sort of keep it down that route of like, everything's got a funny, like a bit like Eddie Bravo, everything's got a funny name. Like the kids have to resonate with it, and then they can go say, show me your robot arms. They will go like this, to shrug there, so they've got no neck. And then with the middle kids, a little bit like that, but a lot of positional work. Like I'll set them up. Today we're doing like bottom half or cross body. Get an underhook. Don't lose the underhook. Get up and get out. Other person flatten out. So they can just sort of make mistakes and then adjust on the fly. And then the teams, I mix it up during the week, half task-based, half what we teach at night, so they can then, because I've got a lot of kids that sort of are floating between the teens and the adults class, and then they get extra reps at doing the same thing. And then with my adults, I follow the guide of the curriculum, so the system of like mount bottom, mount top, guard bottom, guard top, and cycle through all the positions. But then we do a takedown a week. So the same, we start a takedown on Monday, we do the same takedown for the whole week, and then we just add in. We either start with just the entry, depending on the takedown, and then we'll add in variables. So like this week we did single leg, so that we just did get a hard bite on the single leg, and then throughout the week we went, okay, if you've got a loose bite, if you're on the knee, they turn, and we added in all those variables as the week went on, and then next week we'll transition to another takedown. We'll do that for the whole week as well, and that's where I think our wrestling is pretty decent for the gym that isn't like Sydney Wrestling Academy, where all they do is wrestling with submissions.
And is it equally split gi and no gi, or do you just do gi? Or
and you had Robbie on, and he was talking about, well, we do everything's gi, but we don't use grips. Like, I'm a big fan of that, because the gi will slow you down, but then you don't want to rely on the grips. But it's also nice to do a little bit of gi, for lack of a better word, where you can sort of, it's fun. It's fun screwing around with the gi and sort of tying people's legs together with their belt while they're in crossbody and stuff like that. But I wanted that to be more of the fun side of things, and like a bonus, rather than, my jiu-jitsu doesn't work because I can't get a sleeve. I think your grappling, grappling's a better word. Like, your grappling has to work regardless of whether someone's, I don't know how you go, everyone's oiled up, but like whether they've got a suit on, or whether they've got a t-shirt on, or you're at the beach, or you're in a gi, or you're in a comp. Like, your fundamentals are your fundamentals. Then you can explore your avenues afterwards.
Yeah, I agree. I like your concept about having that theme for takedowns for the week. I think, like, for me, starting my jiu-jitsu journey as an older sort of guy, takedowns were always one of those things that I was a little bit, that's where I'm going to get hurt,
Yeah.
Like, if I'm already on the ground, I kind of feel safe, but landing on the ground, I'm like, I reckon that's where, things might go a little bit pear-shaped for me.
Yeah.
So what I have learned over the last few years is, starting from the feet, which we do every single round, that confidence just builds more and more and more, and the ability to build confidence from your feet, I think, is what's so important.
Great.
So having that theme and an idea for a week where you're actually putting that into practice every single session that you do, like, you've got to be developing kids and adults as well, but you're building that confidence, right? Like, that's a great concept.
Yeah, very true. With our kids, it depends on the volume of the class. I prefer them to start on their feet, but if you've got because they have to with my kids, they lock into a day, so I can manage my coaches.
Yeah.
I don't just let them come in whenever they want. They've got to actually just book in, and they're locked in for Monday, or if they're on unlimited, they get a little bit of freedom. But I still ask them to tell me, so I can have enough coaches to cover the class, and it's not just me with 24 kids trying to herd cats. And then if we've got more than 16, particularly the size of the kids, they start back to back rather than on their knees. So they've got a bit of a reaction, but otherwise I prefer they start on their feet and go, feet to ground. And for the same, exactly like you said, and if it's going to start on the feet, you can't sit down on the street. You want to get on top, or you want to do it, and you also want to have a takedown where you don't get stuck in the guard. And it took me a little while to sort of. I went to a seminar at John's actually with Luke Martin from Sydney West, and he said he did that, and I went, that's good. And then so I just added that in, and because I had enough knowledge of that anyway, wasn't trying to work the best way to pass it on. And then since we're doing that, it's been amazing just watching everyone's development and confidence. I've got a crew that train in the mornings in the 6 a.m. class. They're all older guys. They've never sat down. They wouldn't. I don't know what it means to start on your knees. They all take each other to the ground. And they're all in their 40s. So they're just not knowing any different.
Yep. I love those morning classes.
Yes.
And Jack, tell us about your decision to actually start your own academy. So you said that came about in 2019. Was that something that just eventuated, or had you sort of thought about it for a while?
So I got my purple belt in 2015, and then I was training with Mauricio, and he said, "Oh, can you coach a class for me?" on whatever. I think it was Tuesday, whatever. Right? And yeah, no problem at all. And it's kind of this ties into a little bit of what we're talking about as well. And I know what you guys came from originally, but we came from the sort of scattergun approach of techniques where there was no real curriculum. It was like, oh, let's do
that's where I came from.
Let's do a choke.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. And you do a choke.
Yep.
And then they turn up the next night and they're going, oh, that choke was really cool. Yeah, sweet. We're doing half guard today. We're doing we're doing back. No, it's like down rolling.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so now everything's a step away from one another. Back then we're going, okay. And you didn't question it. You just went, okay. There was no flow. And then when Mauricio asked me to teach, and that's kind of what I kind of then realized I had like the Kit Dale stuff, like the concepts. And I went, what do you want me to teach? He goes, jiu-jitsu. I go, yeah, but what? And he goes, jiu-jitsu. And we're like, and then, I mean, there's also his language was a little bit limited at the time. And I've gone, okay. So I remember messaging two of the guys who were training with us. And Mauricio asked me to coach. How do you feel about doing a month of mount to start off with? And every month I'll just change the position. And he goes, they go, can we? And like one of my mates, really good mates, Mark, he's a very systems-based operator. He went, this is what I need. And then so that's how I went down that route. And then just got the confidence up. And then same thing went. And then next thing, the classes are getting busy and everyone's going, oh, so we're going to do mount again next week. I went, well, we've got another 2 weeks of the month. So we'll do 2 more weeks. I don't know what we're doing. And not bagging any of those guys the way they taught. It was just what they did, what they knew. And, and you asked me before about improving lessons and coaching, like those guys did a great job with what they knew. And now I'm sure their lessons are different now and they've got curriculums too because we're all evolving and getting better. And that sort of gave me the confidence. And then when my daughter came along, my wife was working at Google at the time and I wasn't enjoying the work I was doing. And she said, why don't you do the stay-at-home dad thing, coach jiu-jitsu for Mauricio and just spend time with Molly and hang out with her like I did with Xander. I went, cool. Financially, we could afford it. And then did that. And then a mate of mine, Andrew Berridge, who was a decent level kickboxer and a gym here, goes, bro, what are you going to do with yourself? You can't be a professional dad. And I went, wait, start a jiu-jitsu gym. Okay. So then that sort of talking about it. And then at that time, Mauricio was tossing up whether he was going to move back to Brazil. He tried to sell me the academy. We couldn't come to an agreement on that would make us both happy. Caused a little bit of an animosity between the two of us. So I just left and then started my own academy, rented some space from my mate Andrew, who owned a gym. Got a couple of students there and then rented my own space, reconnected with John Smolios and Phil, and then kicked off. So I started the business on the 25th of January. And then probably June, July, rented my own full-time academy. And then COVID came along in early 2020. And I got really lucky with the owner of the property that we had. He didn't have a mortgage, so he just went, don't pay me. Sweet, I'm retired. I don't need the money. So got really, really lucky with that. And then all of our members offered to pay half or whatever they could just to sort of keep the lights on and sort of keep some money, just to sort of maintain the academy. I think I had about 40 members at that time, and then did the reopening and all that sort of stuff, same as everybody did. I mean, not as bad as what you guys had in Melbourne, obviously, but then just got through that, and then now we've just been rolling ever since. Pardon the pun.
It's so good. It's a great story. The aspect and the drive, I suppose, in some way to go into business, was that something you're pretty hesitant about? It kind of seems like you fell into it in the perfect way. I mean, apart from COVID, but it sort of seems like you just fell into it, like you had some good support around you with your wife and family and that sort of thing. So is that kind of how you felt?
So I'm so blessed in that regard. My parents are a little bit old blue collar, old school, and grew up. We were like all of Dad's family and Mum's family worked on the waterfront, and it was that sort of, you get a job, you put money into super, you suffer like everybody else, you get married, and then you retire when you're 65. Hopefully your body hasn't fallen apart and you can play golf. And that wasn't for me. And I worked on the wharves for 13 years, got out when I was 30. And the job that I did on the waterfront, I knew everyone because I did all the payroll and applications and the rostering. And I helped the guy out with his shifts and sort of moved his shifts around so he had a cleaning business. And then when that business grew, he offered me a job, and that's when I left. And then when my parents going, why are you leaving this secure job? Where are you going to die? because you're doing shift work and you're killing yourself. And I went, Mum, I hate it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do shift work anymore. And I want to get to a point where when I have kids, I can actually see them. And like my parents were like, my parents were everything I did because of the hours that Dad did on the wharves. He was Monday to Friday, no shift work. But most people do rotating shifts. And then I just didn't want that. So I got out, did the cleaning stuff with a few guys that I grew up with and knew from the beach. And that sort of opened my eyes that you can, if they can do it, and they're not rocket scientists. They don't have MBAs and they're not lawyers. They're just knock around guys who just work their asses off. And then I went, if they can do it, I can do it. And I didn't want to do the cleaning stuff, but then the opportunity came up. I can do this jiu-jitsu thing. And I was more, the business side has never really bothered me. It's more when I first started off, why I affiliated with Pedro Sauer was he had a curriculum. And I didn't have to think about that. I was more concerned about what am I going to teach these people? Like, I know what I can do, but how do I teach it? Yeah. And like, how do I give them, I can't just do what I do. Like, I'm 115 kilos, 6'1". I've got guys who are 5'2" and 75 kilos. It's different. I've got to teach them skills, and that's sort of so that the actual business side of things. And to be honest, I don't know. I never even thought it was going to fail. I just thought we'll open up and people will come. They didn't, but they eventually did. And still, I'm sure everyone else has those days where you kind of go, maybe just get back and do a regular job, but then you do 9 to 5 and you have to pay me in super and I have to allocate money for this and allocate money for that. But then you come in and like you teach an adult something and they have a light bulb moment and you go, I'm doing what I'm doing for the rest of my life. And that for me, that's the joy. That's what I get most out of what I do is that. I was thinking about this today as well, like making that transition from being selfish in a different way. Like instead of trying to make myself better, I get so much joy and I'm selfishly seeing other people grow and improve or something work or somebody do something that they never thought they could do. That's the joy in it for me. I'm watching that side of things happen. And, that sort of negates all the challenges of owning your own business and not the risk, I guess, but also the headache of everything being on you. I didn't know what it is. Whose fault's that? Me. Didn't change the toilet paper. Whose fault's that? Me. It's not like, that's the thing people don't see, but it's worth it when you have those kids come to you and say, oh, I stood up for myself in the schoolyard today. Or I never had the confidence to stand up in front of anyone, but because you made me do a grading in front of people I don't know, now I don't care whether I have to stand up in front of the school assembly.
Yeah, awesome. That's really, I agree 100%. Yeah, jiu-jitsu, I guess it just builds confidence in that way, doesn't it? So it's amazing. We're nearly out of time, Jack. Do you have any final words for our listeners?
No, probably the only thing I like reflecting on what we've been talking about, and I guess my biggest, not advice, but I just want to enjoy your jiu-jitsu. Don't reject anything. Like I've trained. Just think about all the people that I've trained with, like over the years, and how like you were saying about how eclectic they all are. Remember, like Mario Sperry did a seminar at Alex's. Shanji Hibero has done a seminar there. Nogueira came in and did a seminar. Trained with Bustamante, Glover Texiera back before he couldn't even get into the States to get a visa. Been to America to train with Henry Aikens. Trained at Neil Melanson's garage for 2 days in a row. Did a seminar recently with Josh Barnett at Iconic. The grappling, Steve Maxwell. It's just the list goes on and on of these fantastic grapplers that people know. And then you've got these other wizards that are out there like Rylan Lazaro's from Hawaii, who's Max Holloway's coach, who's part of our association. There's so many hidden gems of coaches that aren't famous because they don't have an Instagram following or a YouTube following or put out instructionals on BJJ Fanatics, but their stuff is top notch. And just don't reject anything. Like absorb everything, take it in, and then process it, and then work out, because you may not use it all, but you may take a little gem out of something. And that's probably my biggest thing I like to sort of spread to everyone. Like I always say to my guy, the guys, will this work? I don't know. Like you have to show me, and then we'll break it down. Hey, why does it work? Who does it work against? Or what do we have to change to make it work against? Because it's working against a white belt who doesn't know what he's doing. Or it's working against a blue belt who's short. How do we make it work against a black belt who has a heavy base or whatever, don't reject the technique just because two people have countered. Like maybe you need to be a better perfecting that technique or add, tweak, find another concept that works in there or another mechanic that makes it all work. And that's the thing I want people to with jiu-jitsu. Like it's an art. Let's not forget we're doing an art. You can create as much as you want, and learn. What's it say? Learn like a student, and then you can break the rules as an artist. And that's what I want people to do, sort of be eclectic and learn and steal, rob, and take as much as you can from everyone, and then make it your own.
Yeah.
And if I can add one other little thing on that too as well, Jack, like be okay with sucking when you first start those sorts of things too.
Yep.
I think that's one of the things for me that I shouldn't say struggle with, but there are times where I'm like, I can't do that. I can't get my body to do that. It's like, look, do another 30 repetitions, leave it for a couple of days, come back, do another 20 repetitions. And then by the next week, your body is kind of moving in those ways that you didn't think it could. So all of a sudden you can do it, So I think that's also something, right?
I think jiu-jitsu gives yourselves a bit of a hard time in that regard because maybe another person who's with you, it's a huge variable. I don't know any sport. Like I play golf again and I suck. Like, but then I hit a great shot and I can go on the tour. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I haven't done any sport where I play football. You can just take. No, you have to learn. You don't just play basketball and just go, I can shoot. Yeah. Michael Jordan. I know I hit the ball. I'm playing good. No, you have to do the reps and do. And I know what jiu-jitsu sort of thinks it's a little bit different. It's actually not. Like, all of those, the ecological approach, the drill, basic, all of that. Every sport does all of the above. Why are we special? We're not. We're just going to do it all, and then turn the volumes up on each one that you think is best.
That's it.
I equate it to like a kid, like a baby or a toddler learning to walk. Like you don't just get to your feet and then wander off, do you? Like you try and you fall and okay, that doesn't work. What else can I do? And like the repeated failures are often the things that teach you what you should be doing a little bit better.
Yeah, for sure.
Dave Lyons is very much into that. He's a soft touch chiropractor, and he said if your child wants to walk, but then they want to crawl again, let them crawl because their neurological pathways aren't quite right. So the body they're so in tune with their body, they'll just realign their neurological pathway and then walk again. We're the same. Yeah. Sometimes you go back to the basics and do some basic grip breaking and hip escapes just to get the movement going and then come back in and then add another variable in and go from there.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks so much again, Jack, for giving up your time. Yeah. It's been great to get to know you. And anyone that's around the Northern Beaches area, come along and pop in and meet Jack and have a role at his academy.
Yep.
Brentos, did you want to do
the policy? You want to come in and train and have a role? The only thing I say is if we share with you, share with us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think that's a great way to sort of leave it, mate. And I agree. I think wholeheartedly that's a nice way to put it, actually. Yeah, share your stuff and we'll share our stuff. So yeah, I really like it. Mate, I've enjoyed you reminiscing about the professional wrestling, Jack. That took me back to when I was a kid. So I enjoyed that. That Andre the Giant signature that I had, I took it to school that many times in that book that the book ended up falling apart. And unfortunately, I have no idea where that signature would be. But I should have treasured that a little bit more because I had a few different signatures from wrestlers on that. So that's it, guys. We'll leave it there. Thank you, Jack, for coming on. Kim, you found another amazing guest. We appreciate that. Remember, we've still got a couple of T-shirts left. We've got our athletic body kit, so reach out for that. We've got discounts on that if you want to buy that. It's all on the links below. But we appreciate you guys listening. Please share the episode. I know Jack will. I know his teammates and friends will. That's it. We'll leave it there. We'll see you on another episode of Roll or Die. Thanks, Jack, mate. That was really good. Really enjoyed it. And Kim, I'll see you on the mat very soon.
Thanks for having me.